But it doesn't stop there, does it? The receipts show that Reeves even purchased earrings for her PA Linter Barracloth. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never heard of a company expense account being used for jewellery shopping.
Rachel Reeves is getting blasted to bits after being proven a hypocrite and a liar.
So let me ask again, and can you please be clear, will Rachel Reeves be your Chancellor for the duration of this Parliament?
Rachel Reeves is doing a fantastic job. She has my full confidence. She has the full confidence of the entire party.
Starmer's caught between a rock and a hard place as he struggles to continue defending Rachel's blunders.
Lapping this up, they say all Brits are paying the price for Labour's action. Mel Stride, the shadow chancellor, says the figures mean further pain for family finances, and it's thanks to the Labour chancellor's record tax hikes.
The public is demanding accountability, and Rachel Reeves is running scared like a coward.
Well, has Keir Starmer's Chancellor Rachel Reeves lied yet again? Well, she's already facing renewed scrutiny over the accuracy of her online CV, isn't she? As well as her use of expenses while working at Halifax Bank of Scotland in the noughties. And today, we see her caught up in yet another lie.
Rachel Reeves is proving to be a compulsive liar, and Starmer's being smashed into a corner.
So the latest development in the ongoing controversy surrounding Chancellor Rachel Reeves has brought to light another discrepancy in her professional history, let's say. This time, it involves a claim about her academic publications. Yes, Rachel Reeves' entry in Who's Who, the UK's most prestigious biographical directory, states that she contributed to the Journal of Political Economy. However, it's now been revealed that she actually wrote for the European Journal of Political Economy. Now, this distinction is actually quite significant.
Starmer and his cronies don't have a shred of integrity, and Labour's in deep trouble over Rachel's latest lies.
Now, this revelation adds to the growing list of inaccuracies in Reeves' professional history. The misrepresentation of her publication in a less prestigious journal, and her Who's Who entry still incorrectly states she worked at the Bank of England until 2009, when in fact it turns out she left in 2006 after only 5.5 years. She said she'd been there for about a decade.
Rachel from accounts is getting exposed for appalling dishonesty, as all the evidence is stacked against her.
So back in 2021, Rachel Reeves was forced to apologise for an error in her Who's Who entry, which claimed she'd worked at the Bank of England for 2 years longer than she actually had. Did she just forget? Well, at the time, this was brushed off as a simple mistake, but now we're seeing a pattern emerging, aren't we? Previously, Reeves and 2 colleagues were the subject of an expenses probe while she was a senior manager at HBOS. A whistleblower submitted a 6-page complaint, accompanied by dozens of pages of evidence, including receipts alleging that Reeves and her colleagues were using company expense accounts to fund a lifestyle, including lavish dinners.
Labour's rotten to its very core, and Starmer's in on it, as this isn't the first time Rachel has been caught lying.
Earrings for her PA Linter Barracloth. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never heard of a company expense account being used for jewellery shopping. An internal audit in April 2009 reportedly found there was a case to answer. The following month, Reeves and her boss left the bank, while the third manager was on sick leave and didn't return.
How pathetic is it when Labour lectures everyone about integrity, yet they're the ones behaving disgustingly corrupt?
This is about integrity, honesty, and about whether we can trust the person who's in charge of our nation's finances. Now, Labour, of course, has been quick to defend their Chancellor. Peter Kyle, the Secretary of State for Science, well, he appeared on GB News to address these allegations. When pressed about the seriousness of the situation, Kyle attempted to downplay the issues, stating that the person who was Director of HR for HBOS at the time said no file passed her desk and there was no investigation.
Labour's in crisis mode, trying to cover up Rachel Reeves' endless scandals, and they're miserably failing at it.
On the CV thing, she's apologised. Someone who works for her did her account on LinkedIn. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't a person's CV their own responsibility? Especially when you're in a position as high profile as the Chancellor of the Exchequer. But of course, she tries to blame someone else. Well, Carl then tried to shift the focus, saying, look at what we're talking about. We have someone who is a trained economist, who worked as an economist, bringing that experience into government. That's precisely the point, isn't it? If we can't trust the details of her experience, how can we trust her to manage the whole economy?
Rachel's running away from the consequences of her actions like a coward and shamefully blaming others for it.
When you're in a position of power, when you're responsible for shaping the policies that affect millions of lives, surely a bit of integrity is paramount. Whether it's about your work history, your educational background, the public deserves the truth. But what we're seeing here is a pattern behaviour from Labour's top brass. Is this really the kind of leadership we want for our country? They're asking us to believe that they can manage our economy, they can lead our country forward, they can make our lives better, How can we trust them if they can't even be honest about their own backgrounds?
Labour's shambolic government has been nothing short of utter and total disappointment that has betrayed and let down the British public time and time again. Starmer whines about integrity and transparency, and yet his own cronies are filled with a bunch of hypocrites who don't put their money where their mouth is, especially Rachel Reeves, who has been making dozens of promises only to betray them immediately after. The very fact that she gets away with lying to the entire British public shows just how idiotic Starmer is. To make matters worse, Rachel's been involved in a brand new scandal that's even more insane than the last one.
Britons living in fear for the economy. So 15%, David, think the Chancellor is doing a good job. 85% think she's not. 67% are against axing the winter fuel payment. And the depth of public fear about the state of the economy, with nearly half expecting unemployment to go up and fewer than 1 in 10 thinking it will fall, has been laid bare.
Rachel Reeves has left this country's economy in ruins, and there's absolutely no doubt left about it anymore. The majority of the British public agree on this, and they're united in their furious backlash against her and Starmer's lunatic government. It's truly spectacular and humiliating that Rachel Reeves managed to lose so much support within months. It's as if she was trying to be the worst chancellor in British history. The public trusted her to bring change, and now they're regretting it. But then again, what else did we expect from a liar?
Because we've got a new government in with a massive majority, and everything seems to have gone wrong when everything was right for them when they got in there. And Rachel Reeves is there's 3 things which are causing her trouble here. One is the winter fuel payments, and it says, as you say in the poll, Ben, that 2/3 of people think that was a bad move. I don't know who the third are who think it wasn't a bad move. Anybody with a political antenna could have told you, don't take money off pensioners.
Labour had the golden opportunity to turn things around, but sadly, they are proving to be too done deaf and dense to get a grip of reality. The entire Labour Party, especially Rachel Reeves, are living in some sort of delusional socialist fantasy where all their ridiculous policies are sunshine and rainbows. However, their decision to scrap the winter fuel allowance was perhaps the most stupid and disastrous move Rachel Reeves could have come up with.
In the last few days, Ben, she's had problems with sexing up her own CV, some suggestions that she over-egged what she'd done in the past, saying she was an economist when she was really Rachel from accounts, that she worked for the Bank of England for a decade when it was just barely 5 years.
Rachel Reeves has become Starmer's #1 liar, and as an obvious result, nobody trusts a single word by her anymore. Of course, why would anyone believe a person who can't even be honest about their qualifications? It doesn't exactly matter how long Rachel worked for the bank, but this is a point of integrity and honesty. The public has given this idiotic chancellor multiple chances, but every time she has, either with a straight face.
That she was investigated for some kind of expenses anomaly, which of course she denies knowing anything about it. But these things are coming out, and all of this is a toxic mix which is putting the skids under her. And this report suggests that there are some cabinet ministers who are now admitting that the Chancellor is in the danger zone. That means Keir Starmer's in the danger zone too.
To make matters worse, Rachel has been exposed in another damning scandal, and Labour is getting tired of her nonsense. Just lying on her CV wasn't enough for Reeves. She had to go ahead and potentially commit fraud as well. If you think about it, being dishonest and misleading the public is what Starmer and his cronies do best. At this point, she's more of a liability for Starmer than anything. Doesn't matter if Starmer keeps her around or throws her under the bus, things will not end well for the Labour Party either way.
Who is inextricably linked with himself and his own leadership would be a very, very bad move. But how long can he carry on with this?
Well, also, Dave, yeah, great points. But also, he's backed her as recently as a few days ago over the CV situation, saying, no, I've got full confidence. So it puts him into a bit of a corner as well.
Starmer is left gobsmacked with 2 equally terrible choices for him. If he doesn't boot Rachel Reeves out the window, him and the Labour Party will be destroyed by incompetence. However, on the other hand, he can't even cut his losses and let go of the deadweight Reeves because the two campaigned together. Almost everything they did during the elections, including the countless pledges they made, were done in collaboration. Sacking Reeves now would mean that Starmer is admitting defeat, and that's simply too much for an arrogant and delusional man like him.
Problem is, for Keir Starmer, does he struggle on with Rachel Reeves there? Or does he pull the rug from underneath her, leave her as an enemy on the back benches? And who does he put in her place? I mean, there's been a lot of praise for her deputy, who seems to be a good performer on television. But Rachel Reeves people voted Labour on the joint ticket of Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. All those polls said.
Either way, Starmer is lost and he has nowhere left to run. Every door is closing to him as Labour's polling rankings are tanking and Starmer's approval ratings are in the gutter. Make no mistake, they did this to themselves with the most insane policies like the inheritance tax hike, scrapping the winter fuel allowance, an increase in national insurance tax. Couple that with the mind-numbingly stupid scandals Rachel has gotten into, and it's a recipe for disaster. Naturally, the current state of our economy isn't exactly doing well.
Is inflation about to soar once again? Well, the latest figures released this morning are going to make for gloomy reading, I'm afraid, in the Treasury. Inflation up, shooting up actually, from 2.5% unexpectedly to 3% in the year to January, and I'm afraid the worst may be yet to come.
Inflation is increasing again, and we've got Rachel Reeves to thank for it. The Tories left the economy at a stable point, and we were seeing consistent growth, however low it was. Under Labour, all stability has been thrown out the window, even though stability is exactly what Rachel Reeves promised. Nobody's really surprised to learn that Labour's manifesto pledges turned out to be lies as well, because that is exactly what the Labour Party does. They manipulate and mislead the public to gain support.
So inflation is now a full percentage point above the Bank of England's target. And next week, Ofgem is set to hike the energy price cap once again, and in April, it will become more expensive for your employer to give you a pay rise or hire new staff. In other words, now how do we get here and what comes next? Well, it's tricky because Rachel Reeves insists that she's working to deliver economic growth and to put more money in people's pockets. Yeah, so far, all the warning lights are flashing on the dashboard, so what's really going on?
It's not just that our government is painfully incompetent. The situation is made considerably worse by the sinister agenda that Starmer and Labour keep forcing down our throats. They've brought Britain to its knees. Remember how Rachel Reeves justifies her insane tax raids on the working class Brits by whining about the supposed £22 billion black hole. She doesn't seem to have that problem when shoveling money in pointless green energy scams or illegal immigration welfare. All the while, the quality of life in Britain is getting worse and energy's getting expensive by the day.
Remember that bombshell budget, that £40 billion tax rising, sky high borrowing budget? We had inflation-busting pay rises for public sector workers. We had a £25 billion national insurance raid on employers, which, by the way, hasn't even hit pay slips yet, so we can look forward to that. And of course, we had endless doomsaying from the cabinet saying that things could only get worse before they got better.
Let's take a look at Rachel's track record. Other than being an obvious liar, her tenure as the Chancellor is filled with blunders and disasters. The supposed budget for growth ending up killing growth stone dead and turning Britain into an economic nightmare. At the same time, she and Starmer were giving inflation-busting pay rises to the liberal elites through trade unions. Make no mistake though, the worst is actually yet to come since we haven't seen the full consequences of her policies.
The Bank of England faces a very difficult choice. I don't envy them. Does it keep cutting interest rates and hope for a growth miracle to fall from the sky? I think we'd all like that, wouldn't we? Don't think it's going to happen though. Does it freeze interest rates, or does it even raise them to stop what could be an inflationary spiral? Now, after today, it looks like your mortgage is staying more expensive for far longer. Sorry to be the bearer of the bad news, but there we are.
The future of Britain depends on Rachel Reeves either making a huge U-turn and admitting to their mistakes, something that Labour's arrogant cronies hate to do, or we'll have to hope for a miracle that somehow fixes the chaotic mess she has created. Let's be real, the state of our economy is looking grim and many experts are giving out serious warnings to the government.
All Brits are paying the price for Labour's action. Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, says the figures mean further pain for family finances, and it's thanks to the Labour Chancellor's record tax hikes and inflation-busting pay rises. Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, he's jumped in as well. The Chancellor's misguided policies are putting us at risk of a new era of stagflation. The economy still isn't growing, and now people are being hit in their pockets.
At the end of the day, the British public made a terrible decision by giving the Labour Party a chance. The Tories had problems, but none of them were as incompetent and genuinely malicious as what Labour turned out to be. Rachel Reeves isn't just failing, she's actively working against the interests of the very people who put her in power. From disastrous economic policies to their obsession with woke ideology, Labour has proven time and again that they care more about virtue signalling than real governance. The British public wanted change. What they got was a government hell-bent on making everything worse.
So what does that mean for Rachel Reeves? Has her growth mission failed? Is she about to be given her P45 and escorted out of the doors of number 11? Well, I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because number 10 finally, admittedly after a lot of pestering from annoying political journalists, insisted that the Chancellor will stay in post for the remainder of this Parliament.
Despite all this, Rachel Reeves is still expected to keep her job, shielded by the same media and establishment that would have torn the Tories apart for half as much. Her blatant lies about her CV should have been a career-ending scandal, yet there's barely a shred of accountability. Instead of being held responsible, she gets the green light from stupid Starmer to continue making disastrous economic decisions while pretending to be bringing growth. If a Tory had done this, the outrage would be deafening, but Labour plays by different rules, and Reeves knows she can get away with it without consequence. This is a peak example of Starmerism.
Charlie, can we talk to you about Rachel Reeves? Questions about her expenses at a previous job at a bank before she was an MP, talking about her buying handbags and earrings on expenses. Questions too about her CV, her online CV. She claims she worked at the Bank of England for 10 years, might be closer to 5 years. Earlier we spoke with the Minister, Peter Kyle, who actually defended the Chancellor. Let's have a listen.
No file passed her desk. She was totally unaware of it, that there was no investigation that she was aware of.
Labour paraded Rachel Reeves around as some sort of champion of integrity and competence. Now, isn't it pathetic that she has been caught exaggerating her credentials and misusing company funds? Yet somehow, we're supposed to trust her with the country's finances. The hypocrisy is insane. Labour loves to lecture the public on morality, yet here we have Starmer and his gang of lunatics accused of getting handbags and jewellery. Reeves gets a free pass because she belongs to the party that claims moral superiority. This is classic two-tier kit.
I think if you're a minister or whatever position of responsibility, you don't blame your staff for whatever is on her LinkedIn. She would know that that is a very public-facing bit of information online that anybody can access. You would have absolutely needed to have approved that before it goes online in full view of the public, particularly if you're going to become the Chancellor of the Exchequer. So I think to blame staff, that's not a good look.
Labour's in crisis mode because they're terrified of the furious backlash that's coming for them. They're trying to defend the indefensible. The excuse that Reeves had no idea her CV was inaccurate is laughable. Really? She's been bragging about it for years, yet we're supposed to believe she never checked if it was true. This is either shocking incompetence or outright lies, both of which should be reason enough to boo her out.
Time and time again during the general election campaign, I worked at the Bank of England for a decade. I've been an economist here. The economy is in safe hands with me. And so to wake up this morning, number 10 and number 11 and the whole government with another set of headlines, embarrassing as it is, about how she might have left under a cloud through expenses, overclaiming expenses while she was at the bank. An investigation obviously took place while she was there. It is just one of those things where the barnacle on the boat start to add up and it sort of drags you down.
Reeves has built her entire political brand on being an experienced economist, but she lied about her actual tenure at the Bank of England. Labour's only misleading the public and straight up manipulating them. What's worse is that Labour supporters will still defend her. It turns out that their so-called principles only apply when they're attacking their opponents. If she's willing to mislead the public about something as simple as her job history, what lies will she tell in government?
What can she do to reinvent herself, to enhance her reputation, which is consistently on a downward curve?
Well, the first one I think is to be honest and be open about who you are, what you've done, because there will still be questions.
Is she going to see out 5 years as Chancellor?
I think the only way that she'll do that is if the economy does start to grow, because of course, as well as saying all of the things that she said that she was qualified to do as Chancellor, the number one mission of this government is getting growth.
There's a very clear way out for Rachel Reeves, but she's too delusional to care. Labour keeps promising to restore trust in politics, yet every time they get close to power, their true nature slips through. Deception, hypocrisy, and entitlement. Reeves's dodgy CV and shady expense history are just the latest examples. The media will downplay this, of course, because they desperately want Labour in power. The left's double standards are on full display. Reeves isn't a competent economist. She's a fraud who thinks she's entitled to power without any accountability. The public is and should be outraged.
Right, you know that you're going to hit the economy come April when these national insurance charges come in for employers. Why doesn't she just stop them? Why doesn't she just say, right, bad idea, we're not now going to do this?
Well, I think that's a very good question. And, she will have to, I think, at April, at March, come the next budget, she will have to set out, because I think we're now in recession. I think most economists recognise now that she's talked down the economy so much.
Starmer and Rachel Reeves just can't admit their fault even if everyone is bashing them. This is pathetic. Labour politicians never have to take responsibility for their own actions. She built her entire reputation on her supposed experience, and now that it's been exposed as a sham, she's acting like she's innocent. The real question is, what else is Labour lying about? If Reeves can't even tell the truth about her past, how can we trust a single word she says about Britain's future?
She's now the subject of a BBC investigation into just how truthful she's been on her CV and more. What do you make of this?
Well, I mean, first of all, this is exactly what the media should do. It should scrutinise our politicians, and if there are holes in their background, that they should be exposed. So
our politicians are supposed to be truthful from those in government, but let's be honest, Labour only cares about rules when they apply to their opponents. Starmer and his cronies will protect her at all costs. Labour keeps pretending they're the party of integrity, yet here's their chancellor manipulating and lying to the public with a fake CV and a dodgy financial history. This isn't just incompetence, it's deception. And if this is how Labour behaves in power, just imagine the corruption we'll see over the years. The only solution is to hold them accountable, and that's something you can help out with by liking this video and subscribing to the channel.